Absolutely. I mean, it's been an unprecedented year, obviously. I mean, you look at the number of storms, the fires in California, the government as a whole has rallied together to make that response happen. So one is this whole spirit of partnership, sort of riffing off what Kevin just said. You know, the other governmental agencies that within DHS that participated in the way of surge capacity, the other federal agencies, even those outside of the DHS family that came together with us. It was a team sport. And if you look at the way we did that, from a standpoint of surge capacity, we onboarded more than 10,000 people in less than 6 weeks through our personnel mobilization centers, got them to a place where they were ready to hit the ground running to support survivors directly. That has been a monumental sort of activity for the CIO community outside of just the surge capacity folks.
Sure.
Steve worked with us and across the CIO community within DHS to pony up an additional almost 25 people to do manned call centers at headquarters to take incoming calls real time with survivors in a way that we could not have actually done within our organization, within our agency, without sort of that support. So one of the things I think is a big lesson learned for us is really how do we now sort of institutionalize this, although we have the mandates in place and the process at a high level in place. From an IT and infrastructure standpoint, how do we actually now begin to institutionalize that capability and capacity? And then the other thing is across other federal agencies that are represented at the distant end. So in other words, SBA and HUD, as well as FEMA and DHS employees and staff, how do we actually come together to sort of make this a uniform effort as far as how we'll do this again? Because if you look at it right now, it is going to happen again. The
Sure.
thing now is how do we prepare for that?
Yeah, I know we talk, I've talked a number of times about the way the world's working these days with technology. We're approaching time where decision making it's pretty getting to be time is equal zero. I mean,
Yeah.
You have to just do things just so quick. What are some of the challenges that you have when you're trying to manage something that massive, Adrian?
So it's absolutely time. If you look at these events, from a standpoint of CONUS versus OCONUS, in other words, Puerto Rico and VI versus Texas and Florida, very different sort of challenges, right? And so I think we have to recognize the fact that those challenges exist, plan for those in a way that then makes the outcome, I would say, at least more structured and more of a way in which the survivors and as well as the federal entities know how to sort of play that out. In other words, we have plans in place, but I think we're going to learn a lot coming out of these events where we have never faced a situation where an infrastructure has been completely obliterated to the tune of more than 50% of the infrastructure of Puerto Rico and the VI basically has been rendered inoperable. And so that's something that we have not faced before. And so we need to take that key lesson learned in and then figure out how we're going to actually manage that, whether that be pre-staging sort of assets on island or finding ways in which we can build more robust systems and capabilities on island. So there's a whole discussion around survivable and resilient capabilities, survivable communications, survivable power grid. There's a lot of discussions around that. So I think there are going to be a lot of lessons learned from perspective of how we work.
What do you think is what worked well, and what was a key that made things work well?
Yeah,
what
absolutely. Partnership is one. What we did from a perspective of on the IT side, we had rolled out the PIV enablement, the personal identifiable verification card. We leveraged those cards across DHS to create interoperability. So when you had folks coming in from other federal agencies, in other words, from an ICE or a CBP, so on and so forth, we leveraged their PIV credentials. We actually, through the personnel mobilization centers, we sent them all to Anniston, where again, there were 10,000 onboarded. We had actually a structured process to really get them through, trained up, get them oriented to sort of FEMA, and then out the door within like about 72 hours. So a lot of those lessons are things that I would highlight. So partnership, I think leveraging the IT in a way that it meets the demand signal. And then the third thing is really a standardization of our processes. So institutionalizing the way that we fight. So train the way we fight the way we train.
Well said.